Hey everybody, Chip Towers of Dog Nation back with you. Welcome back for another episode of Towers Take, brought to you by Marco's Pizza, voted America's favorite pizza company. And you can visit marcos.com for authentic Italian pizza delivered straight to you, just like mine was today. Once again, I went with the Meat Supremo, I believe it's called. Meat Supremo. And for you meat-eating folks out there, I highly recommend it. It has pepperoni, ham, sausage. It's very meaty. And it's really good. Very, very tasty. So thank you for Marco's Pizza for sponsoring the Towers Take here on Dog Nation's Facebook page, which has been getting a lot of activity in the last couple of months. And we certainly appreciate it. We are really enjoying it. What a ride, as Roquan Smith told Seth Emerson last night when he met him at the College Football Awards Banquet, the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta last night. Today, Seth is in Atlanta meeting with the coaches for the the College Football Playoff Semifinals news conference in Atlanta. Y'all be sure and offer Seth your kudos when you get a chance. He's been working hard. We've all been working hard, grinding hard. That's the thing about a season like this. It is fun and it's exhausting and it's expensive. Listen, Georgia fans, Dog Nation and the people at Cox Media Group certainly can appreciate what you've been going through because, these type of runs, they aren't cheap. Who was I talking to? I was having a conversation. Oh, it was one of my, I believe it was Michael Casagrande over at AL.com, just about, Alabama has been in this run for quite some time in the semifinals again this year for the third straight year, playing Clemson in the other semifinal in the Sugar Bowl. Opposite of Georgia and Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl. We'll get more into that in a minute. But, God bless you fans who follow these teams all the way through, and the Georgia fans who have been incredible this year for Georgia, following them up to Notre Dame and taking over Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame in Chicago for a better part of a whole week. I was up there a whole week, all over Atlanta this past weekend for the SEC championship game. Georgia, just an unbelievable performance. Dominating at the end, 28-7, and it could have been 35 or 42-7 if Georgia's not taking it easy there at the end. But it was close for a long time. Great plays by Davin Bellamy in the first half and Lorenzo Carter in the second half sort of turned the tide in that game with a nod toward Bama there. And knocks off Auburn, gets Georgia to its first ever college football playoff. We have so much coming to you, over the next couple of weeks. Hey, look, recruiting too. Jeff Sintel's on that. We're Seth and I are starting some work on that as well. We haven't forgotten about that, but it's mostly about the team right now, as well it should be. I'm going up to Oklahoma next week. Hopefully get a brief visit with the Sooners. Hope you got to read Seth Emerson's stuff on Dog Nation about the, let me get to your questions here. I'm sorry. We're going to get these lined up. He got to talk to Baker Mayfield at the Hall of Fame thing. Don't forget, it's not just Baker Mayfield. Also, his tight end, Mark Andrews, won the Mackey Award for best tight end in the country. That escaped me until I went to look at it. This dude has 906 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns, 6'5", 254-pound Mark Andrews leads the nation's tight ends in receptions. And guys, these Oklahoma throws the ball. Oh my gosh. So Baker Mayfield's going to win the Heisman Trophy. I don't know why he doesn't, but have you gotten a look at his numbers? 4,340 yards passing, 41 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. 71 completion percentage. The kid's incredible. And I guess I should say the Oklahoma offense is incredible. That's Rodney Anderson. You're getting a look at the Oklahoma's leading rusher. He has 900 something yards. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but I remember it being 900 yards or so. They throw to him a lot too. Extremely versatile offense, and so it's a great matchup. Oklahoma's highly explosive offense against Georgia's defense, and but I'll tell you this: I think of all the matchups in the semifinals, I think Georgia got the best one. I mean, the most winnable one for them. Several reasons why. One, I think they can win the game if they can keep Oklahoma to under 30. That's not a small task, maybe 30 or 33. But I think the way Georgia does it is not just defensively, and Georgia will be the best defense by far that Oklahoma's faced all season, but also offensively. I mean, I think pounding the football. Football has never changed much. Interestingly, this is an aside. I'm going to get back to that. But some terrific footage floating on Facebook out there. It seemed to have started from the Elberton Star. Footage of the 1942 Georgia team in the 43 Rose Bowl actually playing. And I was amazed how much they look like Georgia now or Auburn now with all their misdirection and stuff, the way they were running the ball and passing the ball. It was pretty incredible. And Georgia, if they're going to do it this time, it's going to be by those guys that you see on your screen right now. Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, Brian Herrien, Elijah Holyfield, and that O-line, which absolutely answered the bell against Auburn. That was impressive. That was the same D-line, even though Auburn had some issues with their running back, certainly. That was the same defense, and Georgia was able to gash those guys to the tune of 488 yards or whatever it ended up being. So that's what Georgia's got to do to beat Oklahoma. Georgia and Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl, guys. I mean, I'm so excited about it. This is one of those times, I don't mind to tell you, I try to stay jaded and grounded, objective journalist, but I'm excited about going to California and covering the Rose Bowl for the first time in my life. That has been a bucket list for me. I've never had the occasion. I haven't always covered Georgia. I've done different things. There was a while there that I was the Southeastern Conference writer for the AJC, and I've had a couple of different incarnations with them as a feature writer and stuff like that, where maybe I might have had an occasion to get to the Rose Bowl, but obviously there is has not been any connection to the SEC and the Rose Bowl. I just haven't had a chance to get out there. In fact, my only experiences with California, for whatever odd reason, has just been in airports. I've never had the occasion to stay out there, even though Georgia teams, basketball teams have played out there a couple of times. I did go through Sacramento on the way from Portland to Reno on a basketball junket one year, which was pretty cool. I took the train from Portland through Sacramento and across the Sierra Nevada Divide. One of those great trips that I took. Let's talk all about Georgia's Chip's favorite times, right? Let me get these comments up here. I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just too busy talking, I guess. Say something so Dog Nation knows you're here. Say something so I know you're here. I'm having a problem with the comments showing up. I'm gonna get this fixed. But anyway, I have not had the occasion to cover the Rose Bowl, of course, and so I'm looking forward to doing that. And it's not just that Georgia is in this game, as you guys know, as much as that is just the perfect symmetrical season that we've had here with Georgia. That's what I would call it. I didn't know until I talked earlier this week, and I hope you had a chance to read the Towers take that I did on Charlie Trippi. I actually didn't talk directly with Charlie Trippi. I visited him earlier this summer, and he's okay. He turns 96 December 14th. So next Thursday, everybody try to give a shout out and a happy birthday to Charlie Trippi, who turns 96. But he reminded me that Georgia also lost to Auburn that season in '42 when they won the national championship. They did, in fact, lose to Auburn. They didn't get a chance for a rematch in the SEC championship game, but they did get to go to the Rose Bowl, and they won out after that in impressive fashion, impressive most of the year. I don't know what the details were on that Auburn game. I'll try to find out before we get out to Pasadena. But he was pointing out, yeah, we lost to Auburn too, he said, and won the national championship. And so maybe Georgia can do that. I think they have great chance, as I alluded to earlier. I like the matchup with Oklahoma. I mean, it could go either way. It's a national semifinal after all, but certainly when you're talking about a national semifinal, anybody can go down, certainly. And let's see if I can get these comments to working. I am not going to give up easily. And I'll be glad to answer your question as soon as I can get that to working. So here we go. We're going to try this and that. There we go. There we go. All right, I don't know what's going on with this, but hey, Chad Buchanan, who can't wait for signing day. How about them Dawgs? I cannot. Chandrique Johnson says Sam Hooper. Let me find the latest ones. All right, so which ones are the latest ones here? Christy Morell is here. Y'all say hello to my girlfriend. Charlie Lamar Couch points out that Oklahoma has no D. I wouldn't say no D, but yeah, we get your point there. Hal Love says Georgia can win this game. Hal's always here, so I'm sorry for paying Hal a lot of attention, but he is a loyal guy, not just with me, but with all the Facebook Live episodes. As Angelina Johnson says, we have this in the bag. Ben Boatwright, go Dawgs from Alma, Georgia. What I'm eager to say, I'm going to have to look into this, is there is a pretty significant Bulldog Club in Los Angeles. I believe it is the California Bulldog Club. And I want to talk to some of these people. I can't imagine how excited they are, right? I mean, because, your job, your business takes you all over the United States. You never know where you'll end up. I know Mark Schloneker, who does such a great job with Georgia's development office and the Bulldog Club, travels out there to California quite regularly to visit with those people who are very loyal. So let me know if you're on here from California. That is big. Cliff Baker wants to know, what is the biggest obstacle for us? Now we're getting to some real questions. Let's do that. And Derek Kleider, I'm going to come back to you on Natrez. Biggest obstacle for Georgia, I mean, it's pretty easy. I mean, it's just that offense. This is going to be an offense the likes of which Georgia hasn't seen. Conversely, it's going to be a defense the likes of which Oklahoma hasn't seen. So it's going to be difficult for sure. You don't make the semifinals expecting anything else. But I think it's quite winnable for Georgia, and I think that would certainly get Georgia back for Atlanta. And we're talking about the symmetry of this season. I mean, how perfect would it be that Georgia ends up in its first national championship game since 1982, 35 years later in Atlanta, facing Alabama, and Kirby possibly facing, his protege in Nick Saban. All that's in play here, and that could certainly happen. Kirby's done a great job. Y'all, I did a Tower Steak earlier this week. I was surprised when he didn't win 2 of the National Coach Awards, which have already come out. It turns out there's like 10 of them. I wrote yesterday that I had figured 6 of them. Today I talked to Tiger Richardson. His name is Steve Richardson, and he's the president of the Football Writers Association of America, and keeps up with all these things. And he said he thought there was about 10 of them. Some come and some go. But I think Kirby has done a fantastic job. I outlined in that column that I wrote about just all the, every single concern that Georgia had going to the season, how it was addressed, how it ended up successful, and how it's made a difference in the season. Now, I say that knowing that, Scott Frost at UCF and Dabo Swinney at Clemson, and the coach at Oklahoma, Riley, the new guy who succeeded Stoops. I mean, has got him 12-1 here. So everybody's done a terrific job, and there's a lot of guys that could. But I just found a hard time thinking that anybody could have done a better job than Kirby. But I'm biased because I've watched it up close and personal all year. Now, real quick, I can't remember which one of you asked. Several of you asked you. I want to touch on the Nate Patrick, Jason Stanley thing. I watched that video on our web on Dog Nation. You can find it there, the police body cam video, and I'm just really sad about this, y'all. I am just sad for Natrez. Jason Stanley too. For any young men, I was a stupid young man. I think everybody is. Isn't there something? Maybe there's somebody here who has as a doctor or something and can tell us about what they talk about, that frontal lobe not being developed to the point that you make bad decisions. Just such a bad decision those two kids make. I don't think they're awful. I don't think they're bad people. I don't think Natrez is a bad guy. I was listening to some tape earlier today. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this stuff. I just hadn't weighed in on it yet. But, him talking after the Georgia Tech game and what he'd learned about what he went through, which was a 4-game suspension for just this, marijuana, earlier. And he was talking about not taking anything for granted. And I missed being with my brothers. And, these men are the most important people in my life. And just, my heart breaks for the kid. And, you can be a cynic if you want to. And certainly the reality is, well, don't break the law. Don't smoke pot. And, this is not a place to debate whether marijuana should be legalized or not. But considering Natrez's past, I don't care if it was his pot or wasn't his pot, and who was driving, all that kind of stuff. I mean, he was in the car late at night with pot in the car. And if there was anybody, I loved what Irk Russell did many years ago, the late Irk Russell, when he was at Georgia Southern. Many of you might have heard this anecdote where he had all the entire team gather in a relatively small conference room, one of those long, small conference tables. And he said he wanted everybody to see something. And what they didn't know was there was a professional snake handler in there, and he had a bag. And this story gets exaggerated over the years. I don't know if it was one rattlesnake or several, but he took that bag and dumped rattlesnake on the table. And every player in that room, of course, backs up against the wall. And he says, that's exactly how I want you to react whenever you are introduced to drugs, and anytime drugs come into your sphere. And that's a great illustration. And I don't condemn Natrez Patrick for smoking marijuana. And I'm sure if there's any athletes out there, obviously it's important to a lot of athletes, and it's legal in some states and all that kind of stuff. And I can see the benefits of it for somebody who uses their body, gets beat up all the time. But fact of the matter is, Matt McKinney points out here, great. Now, I find myself getting a little upset about this because anybody who's been touched by addiction anywhere in your life, knows how difficult it is. And Matt McKinney said self-sabotage is a part of the addiction. And it is. And it was the same thing with the other kid, the defensive lineman, Chauncey Rivers. Same thing. You sit there and you watch it. And what we think of as grown-ups, and responsible people is how in the world could they have done that? How could they be thinking? Well, they're not. That's the thing. They feel invincible, and certainly after you win a game like that, I know they were, on a high. I'm sorry, lack of a better way of saying it. Hello, Tony Jackson. Alan Verbonic here as always. Sorry. Yeah, third time. Alan Verbonic checks out. Yeah, and there's Messick apparently hadn't heard that illustration, but that's a true story. Irk Russell was. I visited with Frank Ross before the season, who, by the way, said he thought this team had a lot of characteristics of the 1980 national championship team, and he talked about that. There was just no better communicator and motivator than Irk Russell, and I think he should have probably been Georgia's head coach after Dooley stepped down Politics got involved, as it often does, and he wasn't, and so he didn't. But it's too bad, at least for a little while. He was older, and what he did at Georgia Southern, I know, I mean, everything happens for a reason, and that's a fantastic thing. Hope they get their deal dealt with on there. So what else I want to get with is the Kirby Coach of the Year. Roquan, of course, Buckus Award winners. Anybody seen, did he win the Bednarik? I know he didn't win the Nagurski. Actually, Bradley Chubb from Marietta, playing for NC State, won that. I was just reading here. Mark Calakio says, I drove drunk. I mean, really drunk in high school after parties. I think only God for getting me home safe. And it's true. I think we all did. How about Big Ben Cleveland? Hal Love and Hal, I can't ring my bell. I can't find my bell. When I moved into this new house, I know it's in a box. It's in one of these boxes around here. So ding-ling-ling. But how about Big Ben Cleveland? I guess he'll get his, third, fourth consecutive start when they play Oklahoma. Him and Solomon Kinley are alternating pretty good here. I'm going to have another bite of my delicious Marcos.com pizza, Marcos Pizza. As I told you, I have the Meat Supremo. You can get it too. You can order it right now. They'll have it to you probably before this is over. I don't want to put that pressure on them, but maybe. And this is my dinner hour. I don't apologize for eating. There's really good pizza. And they bring it to me every week so you guys will know how good it was. Yeah, Charlie Lamar Couch says Natrez wasn't a starter, was he? Well, he was. Until he got suspended the first time. And then he came back. He might have started one of those last couple of games. I think he might have started against Auburn. Reggie Carter is very good. I mean, I don't think this is a devastating blow to Georgia's defense from the standpoint of you've got Reggie Carter there. You've got a lot of other players. I mean, Tay Crowder and the young guy, Monty Rice. They have a lot of guys who can play the position. But look, Natrez Patrick was your best option there. There's a reason Georgia put up with what they put up with for as long as they did, because he's a good player. And as you see on the body cam video, that's what Jason Stanley was thinking. I'm sure he felt terrible driving 82 in a 65 or whatever it was to get pulled over by the Barrow County Police Department. It was just like you're ruining his life and everything else. Look, here's one thing I've learned about. I don't think Natrez Patrick's life is ruined. Hopefully his life is saved. And hopefully he'll get help or get somewhere where they don't mind him smoking pot. I don't know. But, obviously it's an addiction issue. I don't know what else might be involved. It is good, Ricky Whitworth, that pizza. But I think the NFL, if you can play, they're still going to draft you. I mean, maybe not draft you. But you're going to make a team. And I think Natrez Patrick is very much a NFL prospect. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, there was probably some question as to whether he was going to return for his senior year. He was going to get evaluated, as Kirby does with all the juniors. But I don't think he was going to be first or second round, which is the bar where they set it for whether you should turn pro or not. I mean, the NFL just says first, second round, or you should come back. And good. I'm making some of you guys hungry. That's good. Tom Hopkins wants to know how Easton's doing. We're giving a little space right now. The Bulldogs return to practice next week. I spoke to him after the game Saturday. He was gracious, as always. Said all the things you'd expect him to say. Among the things he said, and I don't think I even used this I did a story on him and Fromm. My Towers take was on Fromm and how uncanny this whole season has been with him being in there. But he's not thinking about that right now. He's not going to make a decision right now. Now, the reality is he has to be discussing this. I think I've told you guys before, I fully expect him to transfer. That's just Chip's guess. Let me be clear about that. Tony Eason, his father, made it clear much earlier in the year to me that you know, they didn't want to talk about it. They weren't going to talk about it. Don't bother trying to get him to talk about it, and so I've honored that. I will, excuse me, I will revisit that. Obviously, I'm sure they're happier than anybody that Georgia got in a bowl on the West Coast. Imagine the travel that they've had, you know, this season. I mean, they make it to all the games, maybe less. It'd be interesting to find out if they came to fewer games since Jacob wasn't starting anymore. But you know, Jacob played a good bit, and he'll keep playing. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. We're down to probably about 5 minutes. You know, now that we've got these high-profile graphics, show them some high-profile graphics, Mark. You know, we can show you pictures, and it's a highly produced show here from my office in Watkinsville. You know, we have to wrap up on time and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Crowder, as some of you are alluding to here, has you know, is playing. He's playing a lot on special teams. He's getting on defense a little bit. Yeah, the third time is an automatic dismissal per Georgia's policy. Now, Kirby has never acknowledged Georgia's policy, talking about the Nate Patrick thing, but he seems to follow it. He just always says, "There's the dome at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is really cool. They light it up in the colors of the winning team, and that's going to happen after the national championship game too. There's a couple of beautiful Georgia cheerleaders or dance girls or whatever they are. That was really quite the scene in there. One for the ages. I really did enjoy it. You know, I mean, it's big. You know, what happened is that we're not celebrating, you know, people like Seth now and in those types of situations. We're running around trying to get interviews. Seth did a great job, much better job than I did, and go into the post-game locker room, because all these guys who hadn't been available for interviews all year are available for interviews. So he very smartly was talking to Isaiah Wilson and other guys. I was, you know, very selfishly and tunnel visioned, focused on talking to people that had to do with my subject matter of the stories that I was filing that night. Nager Yang wants to know who's next to commit, Chip. You know better than that. That's a Jeff Sintel question. I don't know. Here. I can tell you this: the 2018 class is going to be one to remember. I mean, there's no reason to think that Georgia's not going to kick butt after the year they've had on that trail. Now, I haven't gotten into this yet, and I will maybe next week at some time. But you know, there's going to be a little bit of rebuild to do next year. I know nobody wants to talk about that right now, but 31 seniors after all on this roster when you count all the walk-ons. That's a lot to replace, and they aren't insignificant seniors, most of them. Certainly, you know who all of them are. Jerry Lewis says, tired of joining late and missing these. Well, Jerry, I'm sorry. Every Thursday night at 6 o'clock, put it on your calendar, and you won't miss it, because I always do this. Actually, I thought I might not be doing it today, but I was informed earlier in the day, yeah, you're going to be good to go tonight. And I was like, oh, yeah. I might be traveling next week. I may be in Norman, Oklahoma. But if I am, we'll still try to do this. It just depends on whether it conflicts with interview schedules and all that kind of stuff. Still waiting to get stuff back from the Sooners. Let's see. Mike Mizell says he doesn't think Easton will make a decision about staying or leaving until January. Mark Andrews says he hopes Dan Mullins isn't able to flip Justin Fields. He would play right away in the swamp. Yeah, I don't think they will. Thank you, Becky Eberhardt Tapley. That's a very kind comment. She likes the show. I appreciate that. And just like that, we are almost out of time. We're right up against it here. So let me wrap it up. Again, this episode of Towers Take on Facebook Live was brought to you by Marco's Pizza. Marco's Pizza is a terrific company. In fact, it's America's favorite pizza company. And they bring me these pizzas every week, and I'm not kidding you. They're really good. If you hadn't tried them, try them. They're all over the place. Visit Marcos.com for authentic Italian pizza delivered straight to you. Please keep your app up on Dog Nation, or however you read us, on your iPad or on your PC. we got a lot of stuff coming. We're not slowing down. I am gonna go visit some family in South Carolina for the Christmas weekend. Be back at it on Monday. And like I said, Seth's running around in Atlanta right now, so there's a lot of stuff going on. Y'all be sure and tune in to DawgNation.com, and thanks for hanging out with me tonight. See y'all.